Before we get into this video, I wanted to send a shout out to MAMMOTH Headwear. They initially had sent me this hat and I didn't know whether to be insulted or what, because the hats are for larger heads. Now, that's all relative, right? But I've been told I've had a large head all my life, literally and figuratively, right? Especially with the sports takes, you know what I'm saying? It's not that I'm always right, but I say things like I'm always right. That's kind of the key. But yeah, so they sent me this snapback here. They're like, if you like it, wear it. You know, it's cool. And I like it. You see how much hair I got right now. I'm rocking the little mini fro, and so it actually fits. Because sometimes I like to tuck the ears, but I definitely like to tuck the hair, right? And I have different hats for different occasions. If I'm rocking a buzz cut, I could put on the dad cap, but right now I can't pull that off. And so this blue, is it teal? Is it teal under here? I like the color scheme, and then the logo's dope, MAMMOTH. And so, yeah, shout out to that brand, man, because again, I don't do many sponsorships. I get offered little bits and things here, but I turn a lot of it down. Like, I'm not trying to do stuff that I wouldn't mess with, right? And so mammothheadwear.com, go check that out. It's hats for larger heads. But even if you don't have a large head and you just got a bunch of hair, or you want to have a little extra room to tuck the ears, go check them out. And so here we are. Second round matchup, Warriors, Memphis Grizzlies. I think we saw this coming all season long. Like, one way or another, you didn't know how it was going to line up, but it feels like these two teams were destined to meet each other in these playoffs. Is it a changing of the guard? I know Dub Nation certainly hopes it's not. Look, man, I think we were all rooting for Minnesota just for it to go 7 games. Me personally, I needed a little more time to do a proper preview video. So this is just kind of quick hitter preview of the series that starts tomorrow, Sunday, in Memphis. Remember that. And it's so weird because it's been, 3 years since the Warriors have been in the playoffs, and I've had to do these round by round kind of predictions and previews. That was a different team. That was a far more dominant team where it was kind of like easy to make the pick for most of those series, right? How many series in the KD era were you like, it's pretty easy, right? And so I'll get to my pick here at the end. Quick hitters. Let's start with Ja Morant. You saw Minnesota do a very good job attacking him early, coming down, and the cost of that was there was too much Pat Beverly, right? Because he was on Beverly. And so rather than involving a screen or trying to get switches onto the matchup, they're like, no, Pat, you just attack right away to ensure that we make Ja work. And it was somewhat successful. But again, now you had the ball in Pat's hands, a little too much for my taste, and he tends to get carried away. So you've got to make him work, obviously, on the defensive end. And ideally, I won't say ideally, but how Minnesota was successful was doing it right away. And so anticipating the matchup, they're probably going to try to hide Ja on Wiggins. But, so maybe they're going to try to post Wiggs on him early. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Now, Wiggins is really good turning over that left shoulder. He is. The problem is he doesn't really read help well. If you notice, Wiggins kind of has a pre-programmed, he's going to turn middle of the paint for the little jump bunny. He rarely spins baseline away from the help. So we'll see how that plays out. Sometimes when you try to exploit a matchup ISO and do that type of stuff, it pulls your offense out of rhythm, right? And you know that's Steve Kerr's theory. Steve Kerr is not a attack a matchup coach. And sometimes it hurts and sometimes it helps. But obviously, I think it goes without saying, you want to make Ja work defensively and beat him up and make it a war of attrition as much as you can. Now, offensively, what can you do with Ja? Right? Because you say, all right, well, you gap him, you give him the 3, and you just back off. And well, easier said than done, right? If it was that easy, he wouldn't be an all-star player. It's kind of like a prime Russell Westbrook. And look, I'm not comparing them. I think Ja's IQ is already far higher than Russ is even today. But where it's similar is, if you give him too much space, if you give him too much of a runway, now he's got all that momentum and a head full of steam at you, and you can forget about it, right? So the just gapping him and daring him to take the perimeter shot, it's much easier said than done. And so you got to try to distance manage, again, much easier said than done, and then meet him at the dotted. If you notice the dotted circle, one way or another, when he gets there, that's when he's going to gather and try to get into those acrobatics. And so kind of retreat, maintain your space until the dotted. And now you're going to have to hold your ground, get vertical with the understanding that how good is he with those scoop shots? We all know he can finish above you, above the rim, right? But you still got to make him try to finish over the top with the float game. And, if he's going to try to dunk on you, he's going to try to dunk on you, because what he really likes to do is get you to show your hands high and then scoop and finish, right? And so you saw Ant with a great block. I think it was in the second quarter last night where he got him at the end of the half. He went up high and he went for a scoop, and Ant hung in the air and got a piece of it and blocked his shot. You don't see Ja's shot getting blocked that often, but that's just a point of emphasis. Try to take away those scoops. He likes to show and then scoop. The other thing that they like to do is that side pick and roll where he comes up and he just comes flying off the hash mark and turning the corner on you. And you can't bring your big up there. And I apologize not having the footage. Again, this is like a 24-hour turnaround, but you can't have your big come up and show there. You might as well wait for him in the paint and encourage him to pull up coming off that, or or in the mid, or even at the 3-point line, because the speed and velocity he comes off those side pick and rolls, he's not pulling up, right? And too often I saw Minnesota and I see other teams where their big kind of tries to come up a little bit. You're dead to rights unless you're going to just trap and commit to it right away. But the simplicity of that side pick and roll is you can't really ice it, right? Because he just one little in and out, and now he's right down to the middle of the lane. And so, that's just going to put a lot of strain on defenses. And then the last thing I would say is recognize when he's trying to take over. He is one of these guys where it's real obvious when you're like, all right, he's going to try to take over here for the next 4 minutes or so. And he gets much more aggressive looking for his own offense. And so you got to recognize that quickly. It's usually when they need a momentum swing or they're down, right? And, perhaps that's when you go to GP2 on him, or you send a hard trap and make him pass the ball up, right? Because, there are instances in the game where you can tell at this young stage in his career where he's like, I'm in pass mode, I'm in create mode. But you can see when he flips the switch, he's like, no, I got to get going. And you got to recognize that as a team and as a defense right away. Something Minnesota didn't do, right? Now, this Clay-Desmond Bane matchup, the scouting report on both of these guys is very simplistic, but that doesn't mean it's easy, but it's stay attached to the shooter, right? Run them off the 3-point line. One thing that I'd like to see Clay do that we haven't really seen him do much of since his return is move without the ball, and it's understandable. I'm not giving him grief for it, but he's doing a lot more just kind of standing in the corner. And you'd love to run Bane through a bunch of screens and get him moving because, look, I'm not saying I've seen this from Desmond Bane. He's been amazing. He's really been amazing. But when you look at his build, right, it doesn't matter if we're playing basketball, football, MMA, boxing, whatever it is, right? If you looked at his build as an athlete and you say, all right, how are we going to attack this guy? You say, well, let's let those muscles fill up and let's fatigue him. He certainly doesn't look like an endurance athlete, right? And again, I haven't seen conditioning issues with Bane. He's a hell of a basketball player, but I'm just saying I think that there is something to that. If you make him work a lot defensively, those arms are going to fill up and he's going to sap some of the juice from those legs and fill those muscles up. Pause. Is that a pause? I don't even think it is. But yeah, that's, you take your pick with that matchup, right? They're very similar players. Now, I think one of the bigger questions for Memphis and really throughout the series is, can Dillon Brooks and Jaren Jackson Jr. stay out of foul trouble? When it comes to Jaren, I don't think so. I don't think so, right? Because, I've watched a lot of this Memphis team because, again, I anticipated this matchup at one point or another. It's the offensive fouls that get him in trouble. I think we all understand he led the league in protecting the rim in shot blocks, right? So, yeah, that's going to happen. Those bang-bang defensive rim protection plays. But when he tries to attack downhill, he almost tries to attack like Giannis, like this head full of steam, but he doesn't change directions like Giannis, right? It's those offensive foul calls that really, I think, start to pile up his foul trouble. And I think the Warriors, Draymond, they're going to be well aware, like close out short on him. I know, I don't know what the percentages are, but you watch that 3-ball, he's got happy feet. He's got a super, what do they call it? Anterior pelvic tilt, where he's always leaned forward, and that's why his nose is always over his toes. And if you watch him, he always looks off balance. And then it's really pronounced once he puts the ball on the deck and he tries to get downhill. He's pretty out of control. And so the Warrior vets should know that, beat him to his spots, a lot of offensive fouls. I think they've got to prioritize that. And that also means attacking a shot blocker at the body. Andrew Wiggins, I'm talking about you. GP2, Kuminga, who we'll talk about here in a second. When you get downhill in the short roll and he's there, you got to go at him. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but you got to get him out of there. Because him on the floor, I don't know if we can contend with that size. Brandon Clark is one thing, and you see how big he was in this first round matchup against Minnesota. He's a pogo stick. Second, third jumps, that's tough to deal with when you look at our front line and those veterans, right? But I think if you put a body on him and get physical, I think the Warriors can contain Brandon Clark. But now if you have Jaren Jackson Jr. crashing in from the other side, I think we would get overwhelmed in the paint. And so you got to have Jaren Jackson sitting on the bench. Keep him under 20 minutes. I think that's a realistic goal for the Warriors. Now, as far as Dillon Brooks and his potential foul trouble, it leads me into what I think is going to be the biggest conversation as far as the officiating goes in this series. And that's, how are they going to officiate the screens? Are the Warriors going to be able to set that signature kind of rolling little butt nudge screen where it's nuanced when they do it right? Draymond's a master at it. Looney's a master at it. Andre, if he was playing, where, they kind of roll with the screen and hang. They hang on the player they're screening, right? And you get these bang bang plays where, is it a moving screen, or did the defender try to blow through the screen? And Dillon Brooks is a guy who's super aggressive, trying to fight over and through screens. And so I expect a little chess match between he and Draymond as far as kind of flopping and selling the call. And again, the refs, how are they going to call that? Are they going to be consistent? There's no doubt you're going to have some suspect calls both ways when it comes to the moving screen or the foul on the defender. But is there some sort of consistency set early in the series? Like, look, we're gonna just allow you guys to play through it. Draymond can kind of hang you, and Brooks, you can try to blast through it. That's how I would prefer it, right? But we'll see how that goes, because Dillon Brooks, again, another guy that is susceptible to fouls, and it's usually as a defender, being over aggressive on the ball and in ball screens. You could make the argument at times, though, where they're better with him off the floor. They're deep and they're dynamic, but those are the two that you could take out due to foul trouble. So last series against Denver, my X factors were Bjelica and Otto Porter. And Bjelica, he played game 1 and 2, and then they took him out of the series. He didn't finish the series. He's out of the rotation, or at least in that one he was, right? But Otto Porter was a big part of that first round series against Denver. Now, he still isn't shooting the ball well, man. And it's like, you'd love for Otto to find a second or third win here. It seems like even despite the load management they gave him throughout the season, he's just kind of wearing down at this time of the year. But he's such a gamer and such a winner. I have faith that he'll hit the big shot when you need it. You just wonder, against this front line, again, stylistically, styles make fights, man. Clark, Jaren Jackson Jr., even Xavier Tillman, these young, physical, aggressive athletes. I don't see Bjelica or Otto Porter being able to play heavy minutes against this Memphis front line. And so that leads me to the X factor for the Warriors in this series. It's the rookie. It's Jonathan Kuminga. It's Kuminga, man. We've all been anticipating this, right? I'm not telling y'all things you don't know, right? But here we are. We got to, now it's right in front of us. And, that's where you would have loved to seen Kuminga play a little more in that first round, just to taste the intensity of the playoffs. And look, there's always going to be give and take with all players, but especially rookies. But I think Kuminga, he gives us enough that we can deal with what he may take away with his youth and inexperience, right? And we're just going to need his length and athleticism in the paint. You see where Memphis is so good is in scrambles and 50-50 balls, right? There's a long rebound, there's a loose ball. They seem to come up with all of those. They're so young, long, and athletic. And so we not only do we need Kuminga to match that and just the athleticism in the paint, but I also think offensively, he's our best vertical spacer. And there's always the argument of balance of offense. How much is going to be the motion, Steph Curry off-ball stuff? How much traditional pick and roll? And hopefully they can strike a good balance to keep Memphis honest, right? And when we're running that pick and roll, the problem with Draymond, the problem with Looney out there is, that's where, Poole and Steph, there's too much attention to them. We can't keep the defense honest with those screens. Now, they do some tricky things, right, when they're sagging off, the handoffs and all that stuff. But whether it's GP2 or Kuminga, those two players are going to put the most pressure on Memphis and suck them in and give our shooters some airspace. So I think that they're both GP2, obviously GP2 is going to be a big part of this, guarding Ja and all that, but Kuminga, not only does he have to play, he's going to have to play relatively well against this young Memphis front line. That's why he's my X factor. Now back to speaking on the offense. The motion offense, and I showed it in my last breakdown in that Game 6 that was a little too close for comfort. Game 5, Denver, Golden State. And what you notice as a series goes on, and this is true against all matchups, right? But the defense becomes at an advantage as the series goes on because they've seen everything. They've gotten more comfortable with the sets. And you saw Denver, which is not a very good defense, get better and better at guarding the off-ball action as the series went on because they've saw it 5 times in a row, right? And so, again, you've got to strike a balance of traditional pick-and-roll basketball or mano-a-mano, my talent against your talent, and then going to the system when you need it and balancing that out. And so turnovers, right? That has to be probably at the top of Steve Kerr's whiteboard right now, right? Limit turnovers. Memphis gets out and run, they put you away. It's that simple. And I think where we're most susceptible to turnovers is in the motion offense, on all those pin downs and flare screens, and teams getting comfortable and jumping them. Backdoor passes, Draymond, he loves the home run pass. Some of the I can live with the outlet stuff, but in the half court, those skip passes on the backdoor cuts that are never there, you're trying to throw them open, those ones, got to limit those. But here's the message that I would say to the Warriors. I'm going to use a football term. Protect the quarterback. Protect the quarterback. Meaning, if you're Andrew Wiggins cutting back door, or you're Klay Thompson coming up off a pin down, you've got to put it's not so much about creating separation because Memphis, again, young and athletic, they're pretty good at staying attached. You got to put a body on them. Wherever the pass is coming from, the quarterback, Draymond, Steph, Poole, whoever it is, you got to go get the ball. Go be physical at the point of the catch and bump Memphis off of it because that's where Memphis is really good. Dylan Brooks and these guys shooting the gap, banging and guessing and gambling, and that's where they get those turnovers. And so there's going to be a war of cat and mouse with that. Obviously, sometimes you choose wrong and you hit them with the back door, right? But you got to be strong at the point of the catch. Don't wait for it into your hands and think it's going to be all there. No, catch a body on them and clear out, box out for the catches. That would be my advice in limiting the turnovers. But look, ultimately, I think what it's going to come down to is, can the Warriors make enough three-point shots to neutralize the second chance opportunities and size of Memphis in the paint? I don't see us winning the rebound battle or winning the paint at all. I know that it's like, well, they got to do it. I don't see how it happens with our personnel unless Jonathan Kuminga just has a breakout series, right? So it's really just our shooting against their size and athleticism in the paint. And you look at the Warriors, you say, okay, the experience, the pedigree, okay, the talent. I think that you can make the arguments for the Warriors in all those categories. And then you look at Memphis and you say, okay, well, the youth, the athleticism, and the depth. Take your pick, right? Where is it going to be? Again, and this is a hard series to call for me. I think the one area that Dub Nation is kind of underestimating and a little bit in denial, it's a funny thing. Look, Memphis kind of has a little magic to them, and I know people want to shit on Minnesota and how they threw that series away and whatever it is. If you objectively watch the Grizzlies, their chemistry, right, it's a little reminiscent of the 15 Warriors. And I know that may spook some of you, but nobody wants to act like they're not confident going into the series. That's what cracks me up is it's like I feel like I get flack when I'm concerned about certain things. When this is my job to analyze the potential matchup, right? Like, look, your fake confidence isn't going to help the Warriors win this series. And listen, I know some of you are truly confident, like we're going to just mop the floor with them. And if you're one of those people, then you know that. So I'm not speaking to you. But I think that there's a little bit of a facade going on with Dub Nation right now where it's like, Memphis, like this is going to be a serious matchup, man. This is going to be a serious matchup. And whether you acknowledge that or not, it's not going to change the outcome, right? And so I could sit here and pander to my subscriber base and all my Warrior fans and say, hey, Warriors in 6. We got this easy. I don't think that's what it's going to be. I really don't, man. And so I'm struggling to make a pick. I want to tell you we're going to win. I think it's going to be Memphis in 7. I do. I think that something we've talked about all year, the lack of adding another big man is going to come back to bite us in this series. You know, we're going to dust James Wiseman off. Isn't he from Memphis? But yeah, man, look, me picking against us, if you know, is probably a good thing. Actually, the alchemy curse, right? But it has nothing, me saying this has no outcome on the series. So I try to refrain from the hate. I'm trying to be unique in my space and truly tell you what I think. And in years past in the playoffs, I've truly believed we were going to win every series because it was easy. We were so dominant. It was an easy pick. You got Memphis with home court advantage and all that size. Now, push back. Tell me that Steph has fresh legs and looks as good as he has all year. Clay seems to be getting more and more on balance in his legs under him with each game. Draymond just passed the Joker test. So I'm not here to say that I'm right or all that. My gut tells me like this Memphis team kind of has something brewing and kind of has our number. And so I'm super concerned. I hope to be wrong. And y'all can come back to this video and get on my neck when I am, because I'll be here smiling with you, right? But yeah, I think this is going to be a long, grueling series where the winner, I think, will probably come out of the West. I know that's a bold statement. No disrespect to the Suns or Dallas, but this is obviously the series I'm focused on. And so let me know who you got in the comments. And again, this if you truly think we're going to mop them up, that's fine. But I think this is what we're here to do. We're here to have conversation and discuss. This is a tough matchup. Anyway, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.